Let's see if third time's a charm. Currently watching a dog that has spent the last, 8 hours being quiet as a church mouse, to the point where I actually checked to make sure she was still alive. She was so quiet. And as soon as I tried to record this video, she has had several freakouts. And anyway, not freakouts, that's extreme, but she has made a lot of noise. I'll put it that way. So we'll try it again and we'll see how this goes. First up, today I am drinking some Melodious Gin from Dogfish Head in Rehoboth, Delaware. My ice is largely melted because, again, this is the third time over the last hour that I've tried to record this video. But I am having a gin and tonic made with that because I had opened tonic for videos that I recorded yesterday and I needed to finish that bottle off. So really I was doing it for the environment and not just for me. What am I chatting about today? You'll already know because you will have seen the heading for this video, title, as they say. I am talking about solo RPGs and some of my experiences with it. I have known about solo RPGs for a long time. One could argue in the most generous of senses that I got into it because of that. I did a lot of Choose Your Own Adventures and various books like that, Lone Wolf, blanking on some of the other ones, but a bunch of those sort of pick your path type books when I was a kid, before I got into Worlds of Wonder and basic role play. And I have picked up over the years some Call of Cthulhu solo scenarios. I have the RuneQuest solo scenario that's in the basic box for that. The GURPS Conan solo scenarios, thanks to my brother, I now have all of those. But I still haven't done a deep dive into it as a hobby thing. And I do feel like during the pandemic, especially, a lot of people who were used to getting together with their friends and couldn't, decided to dive into solo RPGs. And there's been, I think, a realization in the industry that there are a lot of people out there who are not able to have a regular group, but still want to take part in the hobby. And there's certainly now a lot of YouTube channels out there. I started to understand that this segment of the hobby had expanded quite a bit when I discovered the site, the channel Geek Gamers. I've referenced her a few times. I've found a few things thanks to her, and actually I have her first book, as far as I know anyway, first book that she put out, Wanderings. I haven't picked up some of the other ones, but that was pretty cool. So I'll just discuss my quick thoughts on it, my experiences with it, more recent experiences with it, not including things like Pick Your Path and all that. I tried 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. I've only done one round of this, or one cycle through of this, and it was great. It was really fantastic. I think I've mentioned before, it's a little bit pricey, the $45 for the book. I'm cheap, so it's a little pricey, but in no way do I think that it is overpriced. This is an excellent, not only is the game really good, but this is just a beautiful book that is very well crafted and well worth the price, I think. Obviously, value is something that you have to determine, not something I can determine for you. But I think that $45, though not an insignificant fee for somebody of my means, is still nice. Well worth it. And I get stories out of that. From the one cycle I did, there were things, I could write short stories and maybe even a novel on pieces that came out of the story that I crafted while doing that. So I thought it was fantastic. Am I going to? No, probably not, but I could. So up next, I want to mention Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City 2nd Edition. This is not a solo RPG. However, it has a lot of toolkits and charts and things like that that make it very solo friendly. And so when I tried this, I mostly just I fudged things. I went in, I created a character concept. I didn't worry so much about the rules as far as mechanics for things like fighting or anything like that. I basically just went in, came up with a character concept, came up with journey ideas, and sort of journaled what would go on in there. So I used it more as prompts for journaling than I did a necessarily gamist game, if that makes sense. Ultraviolet Grasslands, again, not intended necessarily for solo RPGs, but I think useful for a solo RPG, or certainly somebody who is into this Mobius, bizarro, psychedelic, prog rock, crazy setting, which I am. So it was pretty cool. At some point, I would like to, if I find a solo game mechanic that I like enough and that is generic enough, I don't know exactly what I want to find, and it might end up being a hodgepodge, I don't know. But if I find that, and it's something that makes me happy and works, I would love to just really spend some time sort of diving into this as a solo game. At some point, I would love to run this for people, but I think as a solo game, it could be really fascinating. Certainly for me, I don't know that I'm going to find a lot of people who are as into this as I am. So that's just, I just wanted to mention that. But what prompted me to do this video is that I have actually spent more time probably on this than any of these other solo games. And even that is not a tremendous amount. That's Four Against Darkness, which I picked up a few years ago, and I have used this book multiple times for various things, including I used it for making a lot of my dungeons during Dungeon 23, but I have poked around at it a bunch of times. I think I made up a few characters when I first got it, and maybe ran through a dungeon. I don't remember, but I've certainly used the book a whole bunch of times for some inspiration. But I sat down this past week and decided to really get serious and play it as is, as written, by the rules, go through all of the processes and all this sort of thing. And so I have some thoughts post doing that. Now I have here some sheets that I got off of a website. I don't remember what website, and I don't think it says. It may have been the people involved with this. I feel like it's going to have a name that I will never say properly. Andre Sefilgoy? That's probably not how that's pronounced. It's probably like Silgoy or something. I don't know. But anyway, I found these sheets, and they are handy tools to have. One is just the printout of all of the various maps from that book. One is, this is really set up kind of so you could do the whole thing on one page, because it's where you would write, print out or draw out your dungeon, and here's the steps for running through the process. Now, I didn't do that, obviously, but I was using the steps. It makes it handy. These are reproduced from the back of the book. Like, the back of the book has... probably should have looked at that. It actually has these icons for when you want to mark in the map what creatures you came across, too. That's a nice thing. But, it has this monsters killed list. It has that chart. Has a few other things. There's a bunch of quick references in the back, and all the charts are sort of reproduced in the back. Now, if I were a little smarter, I would probably get all of these photocopied, or I don't know if they're on the website or whatever. I would probably have a copy of that sitting next to me instead of flipping back and forth, which I will talk about in a moment. Also, it's not the same, I don't think, as those monster record sheet. It's definitely not the same, but there's a monster record sheet, which is handy to have. It's not set up in a way, it's not set up the way I would set it up, but it works fine. So you can see this is the 2 dungeons that I went through fighting things like the first dungeon that I ran through, I kept rolling bosses. It was insane. So it was like Orc Brute, Small Dragon, Trolls, which were not a boss, Medusa, Chimera, Medusa, Orc Brute. And then the second dungeon, I started off with Grey Orc Shaman, who was a boss. I thought it was going to be another round of just boss after boss, but after that, then I ended up facing a bunch of minions. But like my characters leveled up so fast because we just kept facing bosses. It was really weird. So as far as my characters go, I had them on 3x5 cards, and I was using little cardboard standees to represent them just for my own sake. But I got a character up to level 3, 2 more are at level 2. Oh, 2 are at level 3, 2 are at level 2. And then I had switched one out and brought in a new one at level 1 because I was going to bring her up because I didn't have a wizard. So I was going to try to run through and bring her up level-wise so that I could face some stronger stuff with the wizard. Anyway, so I ran through 2 complete dungeons. And my thoughts after it are many, but what I want to mention specifically is that as written, as presented just in this book, Forgans Darkness is very mechanical. It's procedural. It's gamist. It's like a board game. You have a process. You make the characters. You have a process. You follow that process. You roll the dice, combat, or whatever. But it has a very step-by-step mechanical process. Not a lot of room in there for story and character. You can obviously push your own. You're doing it so you can think about what your character's doing, but there's not a lot to facilitate that in here. There's also some limitations that very quickly the charts get a little samey. Particularly, like the minions and the monsters, the bosses and stuff, they just get a little samey because there's 6 different types of vermin. There's 6 different types of minions. There's 6 different bosses. So it starts to get samey. And I believe that there are expansions which help to adjust and add depth and variety to things. But as it stands, like I played through 2 dungeons, I don't know how much more I would do with just the basic book. So there's that, without really starting to add in a lot of my own stuff. And I swear I had a book somewhere that had a dungeon map layout with like a randomizer with like a D100 or something. But can I find that? I cannot. So anyway, there are a lot of books for this, though. That's both, I think, a positive and a negative. There's a lot out there. And I've seen several people mention this in videos, and now I really, after playing the games a couple of times, I really see what people are talking about. That this is a game that, especially considering its popularity, but I don't know as far as monetarily how well it does, this needs a second edition. There's a lot about this book that like screams for a second edition. The organization is all over the place. I found myself continually flipping back as I was going through combats, and I'm like, wait, I need to find out monsters attacking here, but then there's like encounter breakdown back here, and what happens if there's morale roll and that's somewhere else. Here's the encounter section, the spells going back, and I kept having to go back and forth, and sometimes where I found the information didn't make a lot of sense. Certain things were on the creature chart, certain things were in the character, where I would have liked, like the magic information would probably just be best to have all in the magic information, but some of it's there, some of it's on the wizard sheet, it's different stuff like that. So I would love to see a second edition of this, probably something with expanded charts, like maybe you roll a d6 and it takes you to one of 6 different charts with 6 things on them. It's still going to end up getting samey at some point, but it would give you a little bit more variety. But the organization is the biggest issue that I see with this. It's just, it's difficult to kind of get through. Anyway, I still think that it was a fun game, and I could see the potential for a lot more. And I did use two of the scenarios from this book. Is that correct? At least two of the scenarios from this book, anyway. And you know, these are neat. These are pre-done, and I wasn't sure how that would work, but it actually worked out pretty well. You basically read the gist of it, see if it fits for the moment, and then any specific rules, it will tell you. You know, yeah, it definitely went through this layer of the gray orcs, and it gave me the specifics on the monsters that would be there and the treasure that would be there and all that sort of thing. So that's cool. I have this one, Courtship of the Flower Demons. Is that, yeah. I have not tried this yet. This has a very different style, even like in how the characters go through the environment. And I read this when I first bought it. It seemed interesting, but I haven't read it again, and I haven't felt like sitting down and rereading the thing to get my brain working on the specifics of the rules. But it just gave me some thought as I played this past week. That again, I think that the groundwork is here if you want to do dungeon crawls, and I know that some of the source books allow you for doing cross-country travel or forest travel or other kinds of stuff. There's two recent ones, which I'm almost certainly going to get because I love urban stuff. There's two recent books that have come out that are devoted to cities, city building, city adventures, and city encounters, all that sort of thing. And they're for this game, they're quite sizable. I think they're two like 200, 300 page books or something like that. And these books, this is one of the biggest ones, and it's not even 100 pages. It's 90 pages. And this is one of the bigger ones that had been out that I know of anyway before. So it's an interesting game. Am I going to try it again? Yes, probably. I may pick up a couple of the other expansions. Certainly, I'll probably get there's an expansion that allows you to go to a higher level, and I think that does bring in some variation with not just using six-sided dice. Again, a strength and weakness of this game is that it just uses six-sided dice in this book to run the basic game, and it gets you up to level 5. If you want to go any further than that, you need the other books. So I will probably do more, but I am going to want to find either for this game, certainly for other games, stuff that will help me bring in more character, story, plot, that kind of stuff, because that's really what I'm typically more interested in. I'm not always the biggest fan of combat, and at its base level, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, which we've talked about on this channel many a time, at its base level, this is about, you know, you kick down doors and fight monsters. And for that, it's pretty cool. You know, I think it's got a nice, easy system that lets you do that. But if you want more than that, you're going to have some add-ons. I'm not exactly sure which add-ons I need. I know that there is a community. I am not involved with that community, so I may have to get involved with the community to learn just what I need to, if I want to try to shape this game more to what I am interested in. Now, there's also, like, I know Geek Gamers does a lot with mixing in other stuff. So, like, I have Loner, which I started poking at, and has some interesting ideas. I haven't really focused my attention on it to get my brain wrapped around exactly how it's supposed to work. But maybe I could bring in ideas for characters from this to expand the depth of the characters before they go into the... I don't know. We'll see how that all works out. But I guess that's just where I'll leave it, I suppose. But I wanted to ask you, what is your experience with solo gaming? Are you interested in solo gaming? I am at best, like in most things in life, a dabbler. So it's not something I know a lot about. I don't even know that I have... I remembered after I wanted it, I remembered that the back of this book, Wanderings, has they call the Oracle, this here, which I realized when I was playing through Ultraviolet Grasslands, I was like, oh boy, I really need an Oracle. And I didn't realize that I had this. But anyway, that's where I'm at. I'll probably try some others at some point. None of the other big solo RPGs jump out at me as things I necessarily want to play. There are other games that have solo rules that interest me, like Dragonbane, like Forbidden Lands. There was just a Kickstarter for Cloud Empress, for like a new version of Cloud Empress, which is an expansion off of Mothership, or a game using Mothership, I think. I don't know. Anyway, but it's connected to Mothership. And I believe one of their stretch goals was a solo rules pamphlet thing for solo play. You know, I think somebody's already done solo for just straight up Mothership, so who knows? Cloud Empress interests me. I want to check that out, so maybe I'll grab solo rules if that's available. I don't know. So, yeah, we'll see. I still want to get actual other human beings around my table. I was able to a couple of weeks back. I would like to do more of that. But also there's the reality is, especially right now with the way my schedule works, I find myself alone a lot with the opportunity perhaps to play some of these games. I don't have a brain that focuses particularly well, so it's got to be something that I can really latch onto and invest in. And I don't know if I would say Forward Against Darkness, as it is in the basic book, would not hold my interest much longer. So I don't think that this is necessarily the game for me, but again, with some of the expansions, that might help. But I'll see. I have a handful of them on my Amazon wish list that I'm going to try to pick up at some point and see if I can't get a little bit more going on with this. So, all right. I'm going to finish my gin and tonic. I don't know. My phone looks like maybe it's having some trouble even recording. Third time was a charm. I got through this without the dog having a fit. So, all right. Take care. Check out links below if you feel like supporting me in any way.